Apparently I was live, but that's fine. Now I'm really live. How's it going, everyone? That was so weird. You know, I know exactly what happened. I was checking some stuff, and I forgot to switch back to the, hey, I'm getting ready thing. Whatever. It's not a big deal. Doesn't matter. Anyway, it's all you guys, and you guys are just hanging out. You were tapping away on your phone. I was checking some stuff, making sure. Actually, it's probably not even. Now it's on silent. And then I have this guy over here. That's okay. Oh my goodness. I'll fix that later. So much destruction. Okay, so hi everyone. Thanks for joining me. Ken's here. Ian, Kyle, DC's here. Thanks for everybody for coming and hanging out. Sorry about Tuesday. It was like this real last minute thing for the day job. It was like this call, and you know, my boss over there was like, you know what? It's gonna be at 2:30, and I was like, why 2:30? But that's fine. We're here. You guys are coming and hanging out. I appreciate that. I'm gonna click this way I can just kind of see stuff that's going on. So what we were supposed to do on Tuesday, we're gonna do today. We're talking about using groups, using buses, when to use which, the benefits of using one over the other, if there are any, maybe some negatives of using some, if we get into that. Shortcuts are huge, turning groups on and off. Kyle was checking out, oh, Warren was live. Yeah, you know what? It's tough to compete with Warren. He's a brilliant dude. But I appreciate you jumping from his stream over to come hang out with me. Bubba's here. What's going on, Bubba? So yeah, we're gonna go over groups and buses and how I kind of use them in my workflow. I'll be honest now and say that I don't use groups as frequently as I probably should, or definitely not as frequently as I used to use them in Pro Tools. Not to say that they were better in Pro Tools, it's just my workflow has changed. And I haven't really mixed anything in Pro Tools in a while. So I'll say that. DC, maybe folders too. Sure, we can touch on folders because I think anything that kind of helps group stuff together, you know, whether it be buses, whether it be groups, whether it be folders, we can get into a lot of different stuff today. Of course, I want you guys active in chat. Ice Cube, got one for you guys. But yeah, we're talking about how to connect things, how to, you know, how everything works together. So let's go ahead and jump into our session. We've gone back a little bit to, this is the rock song that we wrote together that I will finish. I promise I will finish. I've just been caught up with a whole bunch of other stuff. And I had to put this one off to the side a little bit. But it's a good example of where I've already used folders and buses and groups. We'll just start off just kind of showing some of the things about something that's already built, and then we'll you know, evolve into like setting them up, making sure it works for you, some of the other stuff. We don't need to play this song, at least not yet anyway, but I do want to show you like how some of this stuff is like all working together. So we're gonna work with our background vocals, which is this one here. Sorry, I just want to move some stuff over so I can see what's going on. I have a fader port 8, and I've done a bunch of stuff to make it mine, and it's really cool, but I'm not gonna get into that. So first, let's talk about groups. And easily enough, let's talk about making groups and the shortcuts to do that. So these first two tracks right here, I'm just gonna shift click. Oh, I'm in here. I need to do this for you guys. Let's make my mouse a little bit bigger so that you can see what I'm doing. Nope, not that display. Cursor size, bigger. And then keyboard shortcuts. Come on, you gonna do it for me? Yeah, you are. Here we go. These go over there. All right, keyboard shortcuts. I'm gonna be on the left side for you, as they usually are. Nice big mouse for everybody. Okay. I gotta come back over here real quick. So let's say these first two tracks here, we can see visually in a couple spots if they're already a part of a group. And we're starting with groups, then we'll work to buses, and then we'll work to folders, I think is probably how we're going to do it. So we can see in a few different spots that this is already, or that this is currently not a part of a group. And I'm going to check that this works for you guys. It does. If I zoom in here, I want to move some stuff around, move down a little. So this makes things super easy for everybody to see. So here's our faders of the channels that we have we've been talking about. Now, if we compare these two with the two directly to the right of it, you can see a couple different things. And the first one I want you to look at is actually this guy. Zoom way in. It's going to get real distorted because at this point it's just like crazy in. But this little guy right here means that this channel or this fader is part of a group. This doesn't tell you what group it is, but it does tell you that it is part of a group. So this is the first indicator that you have a group going on. It shows you on the fader. And so we can see that the one that doesn't have it, etc., etc. Let's zoom out a little. Back to kind of how we had it. Now the second one is obviously this area right here. You can see a big discrepancy. This one has a label called BG Vox 1, BG Vox 1. Underneath my face is another one where it's BG Vox 2, so on and so forth. This is the group assignment viewer, and this is an option that you have to turn on in your mixer, and I'll show you where it is. You probably already know, but I'll show you where it is anyway. And you can see that these two channels that clearly have not been part of a group, they just say none. There's no group going on. So let's zoom out. Let's show you where to see these group assignments. And when you have your mixer open here, you go to the wrench, and then down on bottom, group assignments. Right? Easy enough. We turn this off, that part goes away. Turn it back on, boom, there he is. He's back. So that's two different ways to see if you have groups going on, is in the mixer. You can also, if I remember correctly, sucking down some water real quick. If we get out of the mixer and we close it, on the channels themselves, when you have them stretched open a bit, you'll have this pop up as well, where it tells you if it's a part of a group. So if you don't have your mixer open, you can see it here. And you can change what groups it's in. Right now, it's assigned to BG Vox 1. If I wanted it to also be a part of BG Vox 2, I just turn it on or turn it off. If I wanted to be connected to the rhythm guitars, I wouldn't, but you could. So this little drop down here, you have to be viewing a bigger channel, because if these were smaller, this would get cut off, you know, as everything does once it makes it smaller and smaller and smaller. So let's zoom out. Okay. So that's visually seeing if you're part of a group, right? Cool, we got that. Let's make a group for these two channels, which only have this thing going on over here, but we're talking about making groups anyway. Can anybody guess what the keyboard shortcut will be? Mac, Windows, you tell me. What makes the most sense? It's a quiz. Oh, autosave, cool. Let's just do it again, because why not? Come on. Come on. What do you think? It's stupid easy, because it makes sense. And I know there's a delay. I'm waiting for you guys. There's a delay for what I do. It goes to you guys. It's like about 7 seconds or something like that, which in video world is an eternity. And in streaming world, it's also an eternity. All right, time's up. You probably guessed it already. G is close. It's actually a modifier plus G. So on Mac, it will be Command and G, and on PC, it'll be Control G. With that, as you can see, Command G, add group. And it'll do this for whatever tracks you have selected. So right now I just have these two tracks selected. If I was going to take, let's do these 4, Command G, it's now gonna make a new group with the channels that you have selected. You can add and remove channels later, as we just saw, but when you're creating a new one, Command G. Booth's here, what's up, Bobby? So whatever you have selected, Command G, boom, make a new group. I don't want to add these ones in just yet. I'm gonna go back to this. You get the dialog box, you can name it whatever you want. we have a BGVox 1, 2, 3, 4. Hang on, where did we stop with our groups? I want to get rid of my instruments. All right, here's all of my groups. Just want to see my groups. Cool. So yeah, you can see I had a whole bunch of other stuff going on, and even I got lost. I don't even need my outputs open. This button over here in your mixer, it shows you your groups. I just put them in folders. Yes, and we're gonna get to folders, but there are advantages of using groups, and we're about to get into that once we actually make this group for this other one. BGVox 5 is what we're gonna call this. So Command G, BGVox 5. Cool. So we've just made a new group, but why? What's the point in making a group? There's a few things we can do. We're gonna go back to our mixer first. Mark, happy Thursday. Thanks for coming in. So first I want to move this just for organizational sake. First things first, when you make a group, it does a bunch of things where it actually combines a bunch of controls. Now, you guys might be used to if I have these two tracks, and I'm just going to I'm turning this group off real quick, and the one way to do it is by hitting the button here if you have group assignments open. Another one is using Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC plus the group number. So the number is going to be dependent on what group you're trying to do. So in this case, it's group 1. If I hold Option on a Mac, Alt on a PC, and I hit 1, it turns the group on and off. Okay? So I'm going to turn off group 1, and you guys might know that if I shift click these two, I can take the faders and they'll be linked, and I can kind of dance them around and put them wherever I need to. Well, when you have a group, they're already linked. This is a default option of using a group, is having the faders linked. Now, easy enough, if you want to make a change, let's say these two vocals, and they are vocal tracks. Let's say these are slightly misbalanced. Maybe the right side is a little hotter than the left, and you're just trying to get like a nice balance between the two, but you already have them grouped. You can turn the group off, make your change, turn the group back on. But easier than that, just do a temporary suspension of the group. If I remember correctly, and this is our guy here, let's say this one's a little bit louder. Again, I'm gonna hold Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC. Now I can temporarily suspend the group and make my change to this fader. We said it was going to be a little bit hotter, and so to make our left and right a little more balanced, we can put our fader here. Now I've let go of Alt on my keyboard, and I'm going to grab the fader, and they're both linked again. Exactly, DC. You can temporarily suspend any group just by holding Alt. So if you need to go in and make a change, and instead of turning it off and then having to do your thing and going and turning it back on, just temporarily suspend it. Just hold Alt, Option or Alt. Just hold that, make your change. So check this out as well. I'm not holding anything, but here's what I am going to do is I am actually going to use these two channels because I know these have a group, and I am going to Command click or Control click on this to reset these pan right back to center. Cool, didn't know that. Cool, Bobby. You learn something new every day, right? That's the plan. So I've reset the pans on these two that I have selected right now. I'm going to reactivate the group for this one, which was Option 1, because I know this is group 1. And now watch. Now watch. It didn't work, but put this guy back. One of the things you can have selected in your groups is your pan. When you go over here to group assignments and you right click or alternate click on a Mac, I have a mouse that has a right click button on it, but usually it's like a 2-finger on a trackpad, or you hold Option and click. You get this drop down, and here's where you can assign different things to the group if you want them or don't want them to actually be linked within the group. Oh, what is that? I can't see it. Oh, we got a new sub. Thanks for the sub. So some of the things you can do. Editing. Huge. If you have background vocals like this and you need to make your cuts, if it's the same part that you just have doubled, like I have in this case, there's no point to doing 2 sets of edits for everything or selecting both events and doing your thing. If you make a group, it can make editing that much faster. We'll get to that real quick. Volume, we've already seen that. I had pan off, but if I turn this back on, get out of here. Now watch these 2 pans. Shunk. To the left, to the right. Both channels are going. Now, this isn't what I want. I want full left and right, but my group's on. Can I turn it off? Should I go turn pan off? No, I'll suspend the group. Hold Alt. Pan this the other way, let go of Alt. Job done. See? Now, and I'm gonna check this. Oh no, pan is still linked. That's if you have, so let's kind of undo that real quick. We'll put these guys both back to center. We have our pans. They're still linked. And we're gonna find out together. We're gonna grab these guys and only do them part way. Let's do 20 or so. I mean, not that it matters. I'm gonna suspend again, holding down Option on a Mac, Alt on a PC, and I'm gonna go about 20 on the other side. Arbitrary numbers, doesn't matter. The pans are still linked. Now, that left-right balance that they had, when it's not far left and right, you can kind of shift that around. And they'll be linked. So the distance that they were apart, so let's actually do this. Left 20 and right 20. Okay, so they're both linked to left and right 20. If I now make this one right 40, this is now in the center. Because the distance from center was 20 in either direction. So if I take my balance and I push it further to one side or the other, it's going to take that entire range of, pan and move that because they're linked. Am I on a Mac? Yes, I'm on a Mac. That's why I usually say like Command and blah, 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 blah on a PC, or Option plus or blah, blah on a PC. I work on a Mac. But thankfully, the modifier keys translate really well. Bill, grouping is awesome when doing full drum set comps. Yes, I have recorded 12 tracks of drums with 10 takes. It works so good. Yes, it makes things much easier, especially when you go in and you're editing your drums. You only have to really look at the kick and the snare to kind of push everything to on the grid if you're doing something like that. Very handy. Since you're talking about it, let's do that about groups, and let's talk about editing. So, BG Vox 1 and 2, we have these guys. They're linked, the group is active. You saw, I clicked, and let's get rid of this mixer. Alberto, do you think the group or session better for live streaming switch through mute and unmute? Do you think the group, or I'm going to guess you were trying to say buses, better for live streaming, switch through mute and unmute? That is a great question. If I'm streaming something like this, I would probably use a bus. I would probably do something like that because with a bus, I guess it really depends on how I have the whole session broken down. So right now, I have my fader port in front of me. If I hit mute on the one channel, BG Vox 1, because they're grouped and the group, mute is selected, mute solo is selected for my groups, then if I mute one, I mute both of them together. If I need to mute a whole bunch of things that I've put to a bus because they're all related, these are all background vocals that we're talking about right now. If I needed to take out just a couple or one or two, maybe I would do it on the channel or in a group. If I needed to do all of them, then I would do the bus because they're all routed to the bus and kill that. I hope that's your question, and I hope that's a good enough answer. Nix, what's going on? I don't think you can disable the group from the fader port. That is a great question. I'm not sure. I haven't... yeah, I actually probably could, because... Let's do this real quick. We'll go to this guy. We'll... actually, no, we'll go to external. We'll go to fader port. We will go to edit. Because in here, these are all like your user buttons. On the right-hand side of any fader port is the transport. Above that is like the location knob and the previous and next buttons, and you have the buttons that are channel, zoom, scroll, bank, master click, section, and marker. If you have underneath all of those is F1 through 8, and you can custom assign those buttons to do whatever you want. So if you have 8 groups, or maybe disable all groups, like, what is this? Open marker track. You know, not bad. I want to reassign that. I'm going to right click, assign command, and I'm going to search for group. Suspend all groups. Suspend, oops, that was suspend group. I just want to change that again. Suspend group 1 all the way up to suspend group 10. Dissolve group, group selected tracks. Because on the fader port you have the user keys, you can assign it to all kinds of different stuff. And that's just by holding shift, which is on both sides of your faders, and or at least on the fader port 8 and the 16, you're gonna have a shift button on both sides. I can't remember on the fader port 1 version 2, the newer one that looks like the 8 and the 16, just the 1, or on the IO station. I don't know for either of those, but on the 8 and the 16, you have 2 shift buttons, and you have the F buttons that you can assign what you want them to do. So Nick, you can disable groups from the fader port itself. If you do suspend group, my intuition is telling me that it's the group that you are currently working with. So I've done that. I'm hitting shift on my fader port, and I put it to F8. You can see that this group is currently active. Suspend group. Type the group number or name. BG box 1. And I didn't even hit enter. It already knew that I wanted to suspend that. I wonder if I can put it back. No, it's just suspend. So you can suspend groups. That's something that you can put onto it. This was open marker track for me. Open marker track. Oops, that one. That's what I want. That was originally what it was, and I have my marker track open. But yes, not sure if you know this, Tim, but the fader port big blue knob, when you click it, is mapped to the return key. Let's find out. Okay. I don't think I have that set to do anything for me. Are you sure it's the return key? Nick, are you working on a Mac or on a PC? Because it might be something slightly different. Alberto, thanks. Sorry about the bad grammar. I was trying to figure out the best way to mute vocal and instrument groups if I switch over to speaker group during live streaming. Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out the best way to mute vocal and instrument groups if I switch over to during live streaming. Now, Alberto, I'm going to guess that that's kind of like a house of worship style thing that you're doing, where if you have vocal and instrument groups, then, you know, tell me if I'm in the right direction, if it's like house of worship style stuff, because then it might be slightly different, and I can hopefully help. Bill, the classic fader port has one user button, and you can assign the pedal. The newest version of the universal control doesn't support the fader port classic. That it is the older version. So I'm working with a fader port 8, which is kind of based, all like the newer ones are based around. They put the fader port 8 out and its design, and then they made the 1, they made the 16, now they have the IO station. So you can map the return key in your keyboard shortcuts to return. Yes, I could. I don't need to though. That's something, but absolutely. I mean, you can assign it to whatever you want, and then that's an extra button. So that's great to know. I'm glad I read the release notes for the Universal Control before I updated it, or I may have lost access to my Faderport Classic. That is correct. Oh, nailed it. House of Worship. Okay. Nick, try this. Make sure all of the F keys are not illuminated. Oops. Nah, that was me. Don't worry about that. Okay. All right. Okay. So all of my F keys are not illuminated. As it won't work if any of them are highlighted. E channel. Hey, bye. Again, I don't think I have return mapped to anything. So like right now, I don't have anything illuminated, and it's just kind of going through my channels, the knob itself. So I think that's something you just have to do on your own, is like go in and map your things. I don't think I have return mapped anywhere. So definitely cool to know, though. It's an extra button to be able to do whatever. But you need to set a keyboard shortcut to return. Yeah, exactly. So I just don't have anything mapped to return. If I needed something very quick, that's awesome to know that I can use that, and that can be another keyboard shortcut. But if you map keyboard shortcut to return, then it would work. Woo! So let's do this. Ready? Suspend all groups. I currently have as command option G, and I think that's one of mine. Or that might just be a default, I can't remember. So then, let's do, nope, those are all the numbers. Okay, well, I'm not gonna worry about trying to assign something to return right now. But that's awesome to know. Thank you so much for that. All right, we were talking groups, we were talking editing. Let's get into editing. This is really handy for, okay, what did we say? BG Vox 1, just wanna make sure, get this out of here. I don't need that. I'm gonna get rid of the editing. Cool. Oh, editing pan. Cool. All right. Yes. That can go away. I want to bring my inspector back up. Not that I really need it, but it's just so that like the keyboard shortcuts that pop up over here for you guys, they're not really blocking anything. Not that there's anything important going on here. Editing. Okay. So right now, there's a group going on here, but I'm going to suspend that group. So when I click on this event, you can see it just selects the one. Hi, another S1 live stream, sweet. Yes, Sean, thanks for popping in. We're talking about groups and editing, and then after this, I think we're gonna jump from groups and go to buses, and how you can use buses a little bit better and in conjunction, and then we'll get into folders as well. We'll probably have to jump to another song to do folders, but that's fine, because I already have a bunch of folders in here. Or I could just get rid of one and make new ones. Who cares? Editing with groups. Cool. So there's not a lot going on in this track right now, but you saw I only clicked one track and it selected both events because they're within this group that has editing enabled. I disabled the group for these sets of tracks, and I clicked this event and it only selected that one. If I come back down here, you can't see it because I'm going to scroll, but it does select the two events that line up with this same edit point, because this group is active. This group is not. This is part of that same group. This one is. Single click all your events that are within that group. So if I come down here, here's all my choirs, and I only have one choir group. Click, boom. All of them are selected. That's a little underneath my face, so let me zoom in and scroll over. But you can see, now that's the folder track, but all of the events, because this group is active, all of the events, if I single click on one, they all get selected, right? Well, maybe I need to cut some stuff out because I was in a less than ideal recording room, and there's a little bit extra stuff, and the dog barked while I was doing this thing. Whatever. If I want to make a quick and easy edit within this group, this is something. Hi Tim, are you in S15 already? I'm still working in 4.6. one, only because I still have a bunch of projects that I'm working on, and I know I can have dual boots going on, but I won't really want to finish up this stuff because I know I'm going to invest way too much time into 5, so I can learn all of this stuff and teach you guys all the cool stuff that the other guys may or may not have touched on. So that's why I personally just haven't yet. I am going to. S15 is cool. Sphere is awesome because it gives you everything, but not yet. I will, not yet. Okay. I burped in between these lines, and my dog barked, and somebody was yelling at me from the thing. Are you using Artist or Pro? I'm using Pro. The session option I was earlier talking about, I believe, is only in Pro. Oh, the session? Well, that's like the project session? Because I'm using Pro. I've been using Pro since version 2. I only started with Pro. I'm in the session. Yeah, Javier, you're still working on stuff. I know I'm gonna invest my time. Alberto, I'm gonna come back to you, man. I haven't forgotten. We're gonna get back to it. Okay. Blah, noise in between, right? I don't want to have to go into, because of my luck and everything, there's a noise in between all of these different sections of every single take. Maybe the air conditioner was running, there was a fan on the room, I had a cold. Well, it doesn't matter. When you have editing linked, and I'm not even going to change tools, I'm going to use the smart tool. Double click. It cut all of them. Now I can grab, oops, I want this one. I can grab this edge and slide it over. It does it for all of them. I can zoom in. I can hold shift to suspend the snap. Hang on, let me undo. Click and hold. Hold shift. Suspend the snap to grid. Really fine tune my edit. Give myself a fade in. Every single track did the exact same thing. Oh, maybe he means scenes. Alberto, do you mean scenes? Oh, so mix scenes are a thing in version 5. Studio One version 5. So I can't really get into that today because I'm not working in Studio One 5 out here, over there. This is not Studio One 5. This is Studio One 4. That's what I'm still working in. In a future stream, I will. If I was switching between scenes to do House of Worship style stuff, would I use groups or buses? Honestly, at that point, I might use buses for... it's so... That's so... I think it's very dependent on your workflow because I'm now thinking like live sound engineer guy. Like if I'm working with a band and either I'm doing monitors or I'm doing front of house for them, and maybe I've been working with them for a while, just like, you know, House of Worship does. It's like pretty much the same guys. You understand what's going to be happening throughout the entire worship session. Like, you know what to do, when to do it, and what to expect. So you have to think of your workflow in a live environment. I might just do groups. But if you wanted to do like all of your it's so user dependent in my opinion for your situation. Mikolaj? I'm going to go ahead and say that it's Mikolaj, but I'm going to call you Miko. What's going on? Thank you so much for coming and hanging out. S1V4 has console scenes, which is a way to configure multiple views of the console. I'm glad you guys are like trying to help each other out. Everybody's like Assistant Alberto trying to get everything out there, and we're all working together to try and help him in his thing. But you guys saw that in our edits. That was the wrong button. I'm thinking a different program. All of these guys, they can all get the same fade out because everything's linked in our groups, right? Cool. So we did all that. We did our fade ins. We did our fade outs. I want you guys to see this. Let's do that. Let's do this. we'll hit X, and all these guys also get a crossfade as well. So all of your fades, all of your cuts, all of your movements, if I wanted to undo and move this, or I move it this way, all of this happens because these things are all linked. And I just want to undo everything real quick. So editing with groups, very fast, very handy. If I was doing like drums, just think of how powerful this would be. Like, I just want my kick and snare on the grid, and everything else that's around is cool, but I cut there, I can shift things around. Sorry, I have to run. Kyle, go do your thing. Go do your thing, man. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I appreciate you doing that. So that's groups in a nutshell. If you guys have anything else about groups, let me know, and we can come back in. Thank you for answering my question. Sorry about the sidetrack, everyone. No, it's not a sidetrack. You're here. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help you guys. And even if it's not about like what we're talking about, we're going to try and, you know, everybody's going to try and help everyone out. So, sorry, I'm drinking more and more because it gets warmer and warmer in my room because I don't have any air conditioning in here. It gets hot. Okay. That's groups in a nutshell. There are some other things that you can do. Let's open this up. Let me turn this guy back on. If you add a send to a group, it'll do it to both. If you add inserts onto your group, it'll do it for both. Let's just do that real quick. Maybe on this guy, the group is active. We want to throw Pro EQ on. It's on both channels because they're grouped together. Miko, just a few days ago, I realized how amazing DAW Studio One is. I'm so much more amazed, and I'm learning so much from you, bro. Oh, Miko, thank you so much, dude. What were you using? And what do you like? What were you using? And what about changing to Studio One has helped improve your workflow? I'm curious. Let me know. So we have our inserts linked. If I want to go here, I want to throw a compressor on. Boom. Now I have two compressors. Something about this, though, and I'm going to double check with you guys, is if I make a change to this one, which is BG-Vox 2, let's say I want a stupid ratio and threshold. If I go to this one, it doesn't carry those settings over. So inserts may not be worth it. You might want to just like work on one and then put it onto the other. Another thing you could do is just drag on top of, and now you can see that the settings from the one carried over to the other, and you're not like doubling up on the first one. So work with that in your workflow because the plugins themselves are not going to be linked. Just adding the plugins to the inserts will be linked. But for me, I mean, like if I'm going in and let's say I just want to do this, but I know both of these vocals need it, I've done it to this channel, but I haven't done it to this channel. See? It's useful for adding things, but it's not actually linking the plugin. So, but thankfully with drag and drop, you can just drag one from the other, and you just, if you hover on top of, it'll just replace it. So then you would have it for both. So if you dial in for one, then just drag it to the other. It'll either copy if it's a plugin that you don't have on, or replace if you hover over and just slap it on. Also this, remove all. That takes it off for both. Same goes for sends. If I go here and let's say I want to send it to my large haul, it'll add the send for both channels. Something it won't do is the panning, because that's down here underneath all of your sends. It's hard to see, and I'm going to command click or control click on a PC to put it back to center, but this is a little tiny pan slider. You guys didn't know that. There it is. Now I can, because it's a mono track, but a stereo effects channel or a stereo bus, because I use buses for my effects, I can pan my effects. Whoa! Sorry, that was the mouse jumping over. And I can do it opposite of the vocals to kind of make things sound a little wider, which is nice. Same thing though, if I want to go here, remove, it does it for both. Okay, groups. Is there anything else that we didn't do in groups? Record monitor, this is handy if you're doing recording and you want to be able to arm the tracks. it's off, so you're only going to record onto the one. If you're doing something like vocals, then maybe you don't want both on at the same time because you're going to do multiple takes, so you want to be able to go individually. They may all share the same input like I have here, but you might want to record take 1, record take 2, take 3 of a different sounds, take 4 of that same sound from the third one, but you get what I'm saying. Same thing for the monitor buttons. You can have these linked. It's good to do if you're doing like drums, because then you're linking all of those, but maybe not for like vocals, or it's probably not for vocals. Could be good for guitar if you're doing like a DI plus a couple mics on an amp. You can group all those together. That'd be smart to do. Same thing for bass if you have a DI and you're miking a bass amp. Synths, use at your own discretion. You'll figure it out. And pretty much anything else. Like if it's the same thing but multiple versions of it, like a guitar DI and an amp, sure, link them together for record and for monitor. If not, maybe just leave it unchecked. Okay, that's groups. We're getting past groups. Now let's talk buses. I'm just going to turn these groups off real quick. Or it might be better to do this with guitar. So guitars, I still have some groups going on. And they're all doing things and stuff. But so using buses within buses is something you could absolutely do. Oh, sorry, let me catch up real quick. See, Miko. Yes, Miko is a good one. I left Cubase and I was fed up with the instability and crashes. Nick went from Cubase to S1. Miko has been using FL Studio and Pro Tools, and my workflow sped up 100%, including composing and editing, mixing later on. Awesome, dude. I still use Pro Tools at the day job, and I am a Pro Tools converter. What? I came from Pro Tools as well. Also, a long time ago, I used to use Nuendo, which is probably basically Cubase, but at the time, that would have been around Cubase 4, something like that. So I don't even remember. I don't remember a lot of stuff from Cubase, but I know a bunch of guys that use it, and I watch them do some stuff, so I know a little bit, but my workflow is nothing on it. My workflow here, very fast, because I've also been studying on it. Alberto goes, actually, Tim helped me use S1 full function. We were only using Presonus Capture to record and Adobe to convert to MP3. COVID happened and we were forced to change and start training on Ableton, but money. Okay, well, so, let's talk that real quick. Use it full function. I mean, you can do all of your capture. If you're using Presonus Capture, it means you probably have one of the Presonus boards. You can use Capture to do exactly that, to record your shows. But because you already have Studio One, there's no reason to kind of divert from the S1 ecosystem, we'll call it. You can actually just do all of your show in Studio One. Like you can record it. You can do submixes within to do separate outputs. You would have to like go in and set up your I/O and all that. But you absolutely could just do everything inside Studio One. You don't necessarily need to use Capture and then bring it to something else to convert to MP3. If you're using the Pro version of Studio One, and you guys might be using Artist and can tell me if this works the same for Artist, because I can't remember. But if I was going to export, and I'm just going to hit Command E to pull that up, or Control E, when you go to Format, you can select MP3. You can select a lot of different things. At least in Pro you can. Again, you guys have to remind me if you can in Artist or lower. But MP3 is supported. So you don't need to bring it to another program to convert to MP3. If I select MP3, I can also change my sample rate in here, so I can have like a higher sample rate for better quality, or lower sample, not better quality, but like that's where the bit rate would come in. It's like if I need to crush this down for any kind of reason, you can just bring it down to 64 megabits per second, which is a really bad MP3, but it may be something you do if you just have, you're doing house of worship stuff. If you just have like your pastor or your worship leader or whomever, they just want to do like a weekly, like, hey, here's some stuff to think about, and here's what's the word I'm thinking of, like scripture, something along that lines, like here's a thing from the thing we do, and you just want to put that out as like a podcast that somebody can listen to it on their phone or whatever. You can just kind of crunch this down to a lower bit rate. If it's vocals, it's fine. You can push it. You can make it a lot smaller. But if it's a full show, we'll call it, you can do a higher bit rate, so you can get a better quality MP3, and you can do it all right within here. Just when you go and export, you can set some of these other settings as well. If you have it hooked up to a SoundCloud, if your house of worship has a SoundCloud that they can publish their shows to, you can do it straight from here. Notion, I believe, is no longer supported because it kind of just doesn't exist anymore. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. I've never used it. Or you can just not publish it, export the track, and then upload it to whatever service you're using or need to use. Like if I wanted to dump this to YouTube or something and sync it to a video or like an album art or anything like that, just print your file, put it to the video, then upload to YouTube. But yeah, for a house of worship kind of thing, you can just do everything within here. And on your, what I'm going to assume is a Presonus mixer, if it's in DAW mode, then I'm going to show you an example on my fader port, but that was just a shortcut I did that I have here where it's collapsing all my groups. But if I'm like, okay, well, let's do bank. Sorry, I'm just kind of setting everything up. It's like if I'm doing a show and I know, okay, now it's time for just talking. Cool. Red is just all my talking. Then I know that during this part of the worship session, the person's going to be talking, and then the guitar player is going to play something. So I can unmute my guitar tracks. Let me just kind of zoom into here. You guys can't see me doing it, but like if you look at my tracks, like then you can see like, okay, well now that part's done. I can mute the guitar player. Talking, blah, 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 blah. Then, for example, the worship leader is done, but the band is going to do a song, and let's say, like, this is singing vocals, and this is, worship leader. I can, I'm literally just have all my fingers on all the mute buttons, and I can swap it, just like a big hit. You could probably have like different groups as well, and like mute groups. To be, let's see, mute groups. It would just be like global mute. So like you can do everything from in here. Like if I really wanted to, I could be like, I want this, I want all of these. Let's make a group called band. And now mute for all of these is now on one button for me. And I am muting all of these at the same time. If I just click this guy, it'll be easier. Oh, I don't think mute's turned on for that group. Mute solo. Oh, that was weird. For some reason, the drums that weren't added, but there we go. Now with a single button, I can mute my whole band, and now basically I can use one hand because they're small enough faders, or however you have it set up. Maybe you have it as like buses or groups on your console. I can switch, and now my band is muted. My worship leader can come back out, do their thing, blah 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 blah. I'm going to deselect all of these. And now, again, the guitarist is coming out. So I'm going to suspend the group temporarily by holding Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC and unmuting that group. Honestly, I might use scenes for this. Set music scene, sermon scene, and that type of thing. 2-year-old woke up, gotta go. DC, go take care of your 2-year-old man. Thank you for hanging as you did. I'm just gonna undo some stuff because I don't need it to be done here. Oops, where's my mouse? Where'd you go? You're over here, I think. Nope. Hang on. Sorry, I have this thing that moves my mouse. If I come over here, once it. I swear, I'll find it. I keep seeing it do all this stuff. I'm holding the wrong button. Oh, goodness. I don't know what I've done. I've done so much wrong. Now it's not even working. Oh, wait. Why are you over there? Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, that was so very weird. Okay. Oh, my goodness. We have to... we barely got into buses. We barely got into folders. Let's do this real quick. Okay. Bass. Let's make a bus real quick. I'm just going to duplicate my bass because let's say I have bass DI. Let's just do it real quick. Bass DI and bass amp. And then bass distortion. Right? Cool. Here's all of my basses. And they're all doing things and stuff is all happening. Now I want to work with these as in a bus. Now, I would use folders, but if you are using Artist in Studio One version 4 or lower, you may not have folders and you could use buses. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a bus first, and then we'll just kind of undo everything. And then I like right-clicking, hold shift, select the tracks you want, right-click, or alternate click on a Mac. Add bus for selected channels. You can see I've made a keyboard shortcut for this, which for me is Option and Control on a Mac, plus B for bus. What's up, Philip? Thanks for swinging in. But you can just right-click and say, oh, I want to add a VCA for this. I want to add a bus. So I was actually, I responded to a comment on one of my older videos about an hour or 2 hours ago or something like this. Somebody was saying that they were throwing a plugin on the track and it was doing more and having more effect on the track that they were working on. I used folders but now switched to bus, found that was easier. There's things you can do with either, and we're going to get into that. Right now we're on buses. We're going to move to folders in just a second because you can combine them and you can use them with groups. So here's where it is. So the person was saying, if I throw an EQ or if I throw a compressor on here, and I'm just going to use a stock compressor, it's doing more and can have more effect. Folder can't be deleted. Or can it? Maybe it can. There's a couple things you have to do before you do that, though. He was saying the plugin on the channel itself was, doing more than when he had the same kind of plugin. I'm just going to drag this one over on the bus. And here's the reason why. Is a bus is post-fader, meaning it is listening to what is coming out of these channels. And let's say that they're all different, even though they all look exactly the same. We just name them different. Doesn't matter. All of these channels, the faders affects the balance going to this bus. So I'm just going to take all these down and solo the bus. And now this is a bass we have going on. And I'll move back a little. And I want it to be mono anyway. I just hit the button to make it mono. And it doesn't matter if it's loud or it doesn't matter what's going on right now. So anything that's going on here on the channels. The inserts are pre-fader inserts. If you're working on a bus, think of it like a post-fader insert. Although it is pre this fader. All of your inserts are pre-fader, but if it's a bus, it's technically post-fader from the channel fader, but it's pre-fader of the bus fader. Okay, that's why working on a plugin on a channel, you may not, or you may need a little bit more or a little bit less of something. Like if this was an EQ, maybe, you know, you need to cut some frequencies a little harder than if you were doing it on the bus, because the bus is volume dependent. So I'm just gonna throw Fab Filter on because it doesn't matter. I'm on the channel now. It's a pre-fader insert, so maybe I need to do a harder cut here. So a lot of fundamental, but that doesn't matter. So I may need to do a harder thing on the channel itself, but I want you to check this out. I'm just gonna bypass that plugin real quick. And I'm gonna attempt it again, but I'm not moving the mouse this time. I'm peaking at like -12, we'll say. It doesn't matter, this is arbitrary. Even though the fader's at -6. Again, arbitrary, doesn't matter. Because it's one channel going to this bus, it's the same. It's a little lower because it's post fader, it's listening to this. If I put this fader to 0, it's 1-to-1. It's the same because this is allowing all of that signal to go to my bus. But once I start adding in these, which are exact copies right now, you can see my bus is now a sum of all of these signals. If all of these channels were lower, it's still a sum of all of these channels, but there's just less feeding into this bus. And then, you know, depending on your like compressor or EQ or anything that you have going on in your inserts of the bus is working on that entire blend of your signals. Now it's a kind of not a great example now because it's literally just the same signal over and over and over again. But, you know, let's just go to our guitars real quick. This is the bus. Here's my guitar folder. And we can kind of touch into folders and buses at the same time. My folder is working as a bus because I've told it to. And you can do that too. Before we get into that, Command-Shift-S or Control-Shift-S on a PC. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. It will clear all your solos. Shift-click these guys, right-click, pack folder. Okay, did you see that? All of my bass tracks went away because I have the option linked of like if a folder's gone, you take the thing away. When you're looking at your folder tracks over here in your range window, let's get rid of that. This drop down here allows you to assign the folder to a bus. And if you are just starting with folders and you don't have all of these buses already and you haven't linked all of your basses to this bus for the example we just did, you can add a bus and it will connect it to this folder. Now, if I go back to my mixer, here is the bus that is the folder, and I can view all of the contents within that folder and change my balance going to my bus. So using folders as buses is very handy. It works the same way if it was a bus here, but now all of these tracks are going to this folder. I think it was Philip was saying, great feature S1, though the folder thing. Yes, folders are really handy to have. Now, I think it was you who was saying that folders can't be deleted. Yeah, they can. the folder itself has been deleted, but because I have it linked as a bus, it kept the bus channel there as well. So I'm going to undo a couple times because, okay, here, I've got the folder with contents in it not being routed as a bus. Right click, remove track, everything's still there. Yeah, very simple. It's not going to remove the channels that you have selected unless you have those channels selected, and then you're removing those tracks. But if you're just doing buses, it'll only get, if you're just doing folders, it'll just get rid of the folder track. If the folder is working as a bus, it will get rid of the folder track, but not the bus. So, you never had the courage to do it. I hear you, man. Oh, that folder feature, I was looking for that. So on Ableton, expand and collapse. Yes. So there's actually keyboard shortcuts that you can do as well. So if I have, so you can see my, here, let me open up my drums. You know what, let's just do this. I'm going to open up everything. And thankfully, it's not going to push everything over. But I have everything expanded right now. And it's a big mixer. There's a lot of stuff going on. If I just kind of need to see the overview of just like the main buses, first thing you can do is go to Track, Collapse All Tracks. This will also do it for if you have like multi-outs for VSTs. It'll do this same thing as well. Click. Now all of my folders, mind you, these bases, these all don't need to exist. So we'll just do it one more time real quick. And you can assign this a keyboard shortcut, and I've assigned it as a shortcut on my fader port. Collapse all tracks. Now look, everything's condensed down. I can see the big picture. And at this point on my fader port, I can now just do, I still have shift selected on there, but I can just balance the buses. If everything going to my buses like is decently balanced, now I can just do the overall picture of the mix with just the buses and get my balance and be like, you know what, those drums are not loud enough. Let me bring just the drums up. The guitars are screaming. Let me bring the guitars down. The vocal needs to be up a little bit more, but the backgrounds need to be down. The synths need to be stupid loud. I can do it from a grand view like this. Or maybe you just want to put everything back to 0 for all of your buses. Let's do like we did before, where you can have like a temporary group. Click, hold shift, click. This is where things are going to get weird, because I am going to hold command on my keyboard or control on a PC. You can see that my drums are at -1.5. And I was actually talking to my student, one of my students, which if you guys are interested in one-on-one lessons, just go to my website, which is in the link description down, there's a link in the video description underneath what's going on here. Go to my website, reach out to me. I do one-on-one lessons. Okay. If you want everything to be back at 0, well, this guy's at +6, this guy's at +1. If I was going to command click on this fader, which is underneath 0, it would put this one to 0, but it would also bring everything else up proportionally because it was underneath 0. If I want everything at 0, it's just an extra step. Take any fader, slam everybody down, and then put everybody down, and I have to re-select because it held the memory of that proportion of everything. But then when you shift click to reselect everybody and then command or control click, it'll snap everybody back to 0. Control click or command click, if you're on a Mac, resets to like a default value. Same thing goes for pan. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to catch up on some stuff, but I do have to end stream. Let's see, Philip said, oh, the folder feature was looking for that that you saw on Ableton. Yes, that's in Studio One. Let's see, Prime Recordings. Hello, could you show the function solo safe? I'm a little confused on how to use support from Italy. Hello, Italy. Okay, sure. Let's do that real quick because here's a good example of a bad vocal. So solo safe in Studio One, and I'm going to go to my effects channels because this is where it's going to be. Is my head in the way? I might have to move my head. Let me do this real quick. That plus, which one is it? That plus this. If I take these two guys, shunk. There, I move my head. Okay, so you can see these guys here with the green S's are solo safe. And solo safe means if you have something routed to, in this case, it's a, these are buses being used as effects returns. If I have something routed to it, like a vocal going to a reverb, if I solo the vocal, I will hear the reverb. So a good way, and now Studio One is smart when it does solos. If I solo the lead vocal bus, it's going to solo anything that isn't muted in that bus. So like here's my lead vocal, or here's my lead vocal, or here's also my lead vocal, or maybe it's a double or something, whatever. These are now soloed. They have sends on their bus to this reverb. And if I hit solo on it, which I'm just going to go back to this section. I don't know why that keyboard shortcut didn't work, but that's fine. And I want you. Let's go too much reverb. And I want you. It should have. Aha, here's why. And here's a great example of why this didn't work. That was just the dry vocal. My buses, or my returns for my reverbs and stuff like that, my buses are routed to an effects bus. And the effects bus was not solo safe. So even though I have it soloed, and you can see that the reverb returns are trying to solo, they are being superseded by the bus that they go to. This is saying, no, you're not going to get heard. Holding shift on my keyboard, clicking the S, then gives it the solo safe or solo in place ability. So if we go back to our vocals, solo those, and I want you, I can now hear the reverb because I have the vocal soloed. If I wanted to turn that off, I could just turn the send off. And I want you. There's dry vocal. And I want you. That's solo safe in a nutshell. Prime, I hope that helped you out. I am going to go to this one and start saying goodbye. But I do have a video about solo and solo safe that is a little bit more, the flow is a little bit better because I didn't screw up when I did it. Only because my bus wasn't solo safe. But you saw the effects channels start off solo safe. When you make an effects channel, it already has the green S. When you make a bus or any other channel, all you have to do is hold shift and click on the solo button and it makes it safe. So that's something you can just assign. I prefer to use buses for my returns. I found that VCAs will work better for soloing tracks and use them for volume. Yep, VCAs are definitely great for some people's workflow. Not mine. I'm okay with VCAs. I don't use them that much. I use buses. Maybe we can do another stream getting into VCAs a little bit more because VCAs are cool. It will. So here's where things can be kind of weird with VCAs. When you do a VCA, let's say you have a drum VCA. It will take all of the faders that are assigned to that VCA and proportionally bring them up or down. Cool, right? Now I can take my drum mix and make it a little bit louder, make it a little bit softer. Prime, you're very welcome. So with a VCA, I can take my whole drum mix and make it a little bit louder, a little bit softer. Here's where things get weird though, is if you have, let's say like some drum compression going on your entire drum group in a bus. If everything's bussed together and you have some drum compression going on, and you only have your channel faders linked to a VCA, when you're moving the VCA up and down, you're now changing how much is going into that bus compressor, if that's the way that you have everything set up. So maybe you need to bring your drums down a little, or you need to push your drums up a little bit more. You're then going to be hitting that compressor that's on a bus either harder or softer. So the gain staging is going to be a little weird. You do need to watch for stuff like that. But VCAs can be very handy because everything's done proportionally. And maybe that's something you want. It's like, yeah, I don't want as much compression, so I'm just going to take my VCA of all my things. Here's my one fader, bring my drums down, and they're not going to be as compressed. But here's the chorus, and I kind of want it slams a bit more. I can push that VCA a little bit harder. All of my bus proportionally, as that mix, go into the bus a little bit better with some compression. Could you just route the VCA after the compressor? Well, in that case, if you're using a bus, you're just affecting the bus and the overall volume. So there are some, like, the workflow's a little interesting. Will you be continuing your stock plugin series? Alberto, yes. There's lots of stock plugins, and they all just got updated in S1.5. So I think I have to delay it slightly. I put out Fat Channel XT Part 1 a couple weeks ago. I can't remember exactly when it was. So I put that out not too long ago, and then of course they went ahead and updated Fat Channel. Now the overall general use of Fat Channel is the same, the stock stuff. That's what the first video was, without using any of like the modeling EQs or compressors. All of that is the same. The graphic user interface, or the GUI, is updated. But now the Fat Channel XT and every dynamic plugin that is stock to Studio One has a sidechain insert. So that's really the only change for the Fat Channel. All of the Fat Channel collection stuff, which actually, that's some other stuff I can get into, but although I don't have the... I gotta get Sphere so I can get the R500 stuff. I can't remember exactly what it is. Philip, still need to buy separately the Fat Channel. No, if you have Pro, you get the Fat Channel, or if you have like one of the Studio Live or the AR consoles, you have Fat Channel, and included within Fat Channel of any versions is a couple of the modeling things. For the compressors, you get the stock compressor, but you also get the tube compressor, which is based on an opto tube compressor. Once you see it, you'll recognize it. And there's also the FET compressor, which is also very recognizable. For the EQs, you get the passive EQ, which is based on an old tube-based 60s style passive EQ. So that's why they call it the passive. And then the vintage, which is based on a British EQ. Once you see these things, you know what they are. They're not licensed, they're modeled. That's why they have to change the name and everything. But everybody does that. Still trying to learn which plugin to use in bus and the line. There is no right answer to that. It's maybe you want to do a combination of things. On the channel itself, if you're doing a mix, maybe you're like, you know what, let me get rid of all this stuff I don't like on the channel. This way it doesn't feed the bus. And then on the bus, I can do all the stuff that I want to do, like maybe add some low ends to a kick drum, or some bus compression, or anything like that. So you can use combinations, and you can stack things. You can be like, oh, yes, I have some subtractive EQ on this bass guitar, like directly on the channel, but then on the bus, because there's a couple other things going into there, I need a little bit more subtractive EQ, and then here's a compressor, but then there's some additive EQ as well, just to kind of enhance some stuff. Sky's the limit. There is no right answer. It's what do you need to do to make sure that the mix sounds good. So I want to thank everybody for coming and hanging out. I do have to call it for the day. So thanks for coming and hanging out. I hope you learned a lot. We didn't really get into folders as much as I wanted it to. We kind of got into buses a bit, which was okay. We really dove very deep into groups. So for next week, no streams. I'm not doing any streams next week because I'm going to be out of town. But we are going to resume the following week. So send me some suggestions. What do you guys want to see in live stream? What do you... what do you want to learn some more about? Maybe at that time we'll be into S1V5. We can go into some of the cool new things. We'll see what happens. If you have suggestions, by all means, let me know. Again, like I said a little while ago, if you guys are interested in one-on-one lessons or one-to-one or however you want to say that, in the description of this video that's going on right now is a link to my website. In that, just go to that link, fill out my contact form, and say, hey, I'm interested in lessons. Then I'll shoot back to you, and we can get started with there, see if it's something you're interested in. Let's see, what else? Thank you all for for any and all of your donations and subscriptions to the channel and everything like that. It really means a lot. It helps me continue to make these videos for you guys, because as far as I understand, you like seeing them, and that's awesome. Alberto, thank you so much. Your folder stuff today really helped me with the big question I had. I'm glad to hear that. I'm always thrilled to hear that anything that I do or any silly thing that I do helps somebody. So again, thank you all for coming and hanging out. I will see you not next week, but the following week. What is the first one? That would be the 28th and the 30th. So that's the Tuesday and Wednesday of that following week, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, because that's where I am, and we'll go for about an hour, hour and 15, something like that, and we'll figure out what we're going to do. Until then, have a great weekend. Have a great next week. I'm going to click this so I can actually do some stuff. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay smart, and enjoy your mixing. All right, bye, everybody. Thank you.